Betsy, welcome back to the Conquering Everest podcast.
Hey,
How have you
Brian.
been?
Good.
Good. This is part two to our conversation. I think we both just decided that I had that brilliant idea of waiting to post our first one to the podcast until we had this one. At least that's what we're telling ourselves. But yeah, we wanted to have a part two. And I believe when we finished our first conversation, we were on the topic of trust and perhaps my lack of it in some areas of my life. It may be even kind of a lack of commitment in areas of my life. And we were going to kind of dig and prod and try to get inside of my head a little bit. So, where would you like me to start?
Actually, that's super interesting. I don't remember you saying anything about your lack of commitment
Oh, I
before.
added in. I threw a
You
curveball.
did. No, so I need to know more. I need to know whether the problem is commitment or trust or how they interlink there. What does that do in your head when you're talking about those things?
Um, so for me, when I think about, I, I guess I never really consider myself to have trust issues.
Okay.
Um, except for when it comes to like financial investments. Somebody, you see something online, it's like, oh, this looks like it'd be a good opportunity, but then I'm always a little hesitant, like, I don't want to lose my money. Which is odd because I can go to the casino boat and drop $300 and not think twice about it. But if I'm going to spend that on myself to develop myself, it's like I got to convince myself to spend that money. So when it comes to trust, that's what the initial reaction or thought that comes to my mind is. Then, as far as commitment, that one's probably a little more relevant. So, kind of give you a little bit of history. We'll go back when I decided that I was ready to settle down and look for, my wife, my future wife, and start a family. I had found, so I started dating, but it took me, I think we were dating for about 7 or 8 years before I finally proposed. And we got, then we ended up getting married, having a couple kids pretty quickly after we got married. But it took me a long time to get to that point. And I see that in a lot of my relationships, my one-on-one relationships, especially when there's intimacy involved. There's kind of this hesitation where I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I will fall for, I won't say I fall in love, but I desire to be with whoever, my girlfriend or whoever I'm with it. And but the future, thinking about the future, it's always like, well, is there a future? How's this going to look? How will we, put our two lives together in the same, and be able to kind of live the same life and go after what we want. Now, I guess I should say too. I was married. I'm divorced. So when I say girlfriend, I don't want people thinking, been there, done that. But yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I apologize. I warned you. There's some cats kind of going crazy back here. But so I think for me, I don't think of trust as being an issue, although there's some of that involved. But definitely the lack of willingness to commit, like commitment's scary to me. And that's not just in relationships. It's, like when I started this podcast, I was like, well, this is pretty scary because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not, at that time I had never done a podcast, but I went ahead and jumped into it, jumped into the feet to the fire and started building it out. And even as it's grown and gotten busier and busier, I'm committed to it. I want to see it succeed.
But
But that's the big but. I think when I started it, I didn't see it going, like I didn't really see it going as far as it's gone. And it's still, as far as I'm concerned, it's still in its infancy. But I can see examples of that all as I go back through my life. I can see where my fear of commitment caused me to cut something off too short, whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever the case may be.
I'm seeing a couple through lines.
Okay.
And we all look at things through our own lenses, right?
Right.
But what I heard at the beginning is you don't have any problem trusting people, but something like an investment in yourself, you said. Do you mean like retirement investments, or do you mean like a course that you have to dump money on?
It is, I think, investing in myself. The latter. So if it's a course or as I've had coaches, various coaches, it's like I've got to talk myself into it and be like, it's only money. So if it doesn't, if you lose your money, okay. I think money might be the problem.
Okay, that's
I'm afraid to let it go.
I understand. That's actually something that I can completely identify with. Okay. And have come to something over the last couple of years, actually, that's very pertinent. But let me draw back for 1 second and say, when you go to the casino, you're planning on dropping money, and it's going to be, you're planning on it. You're not planning on coming back with anything, I assume. You always figure if you break even, you're lucky. But if you break even, you're going to spend that too, because you're there for entertainment.
Right.
And if you're investing something in yourself, a coach or a course or a workshop, whatever it is, you're putting yourself into it. And if you don't get something out of it, you might not, like the underlying thing is you might not have put enough of yourself into it.
Yeah.
And so there's like a threat there. Am I right? Like, does that sound like it's possible?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some sort of threat there for me. It's weird because when I think of money, there's plenty of times where I have invested in myself, or like this podcast, for instance. I mean, I haven't collected a red cent from this podcast, but I've put a lot of my own money into it. And that didn't bother me doing that. But
this podcast, it's your baby. Like this is like, this feels more like purpose. You went through this thing and you want to help other people go through their thing. Yeah. So it's kind of like what I'm doing. I consider myself a guide, like a freedom guide, a coach, whatever. Whether I'm talking to a person on the street, like my neighbor has an issue, with the mailman, and I'm like helping them figure out what to do, as opposed to somebody who's hiring me to do it. This is who I am. It's what I do, no matter what, whether it's creating money. And I get the feeling that the passion is behind the podcast. Let me take that and go to relationships. I'm not a relationship coach. I'm not interested in figuring out your commitment issues as such. I see them as very similar, if not like the exact same thing. You spent 7 years talking yourself into spending money on the coaching sessions before you proposed. Is that can you feel if that's similar, like the feeling there?
When I think about a relationship, whether with a person or even with a material item, my mind kind of goes to what my mind first wants to generate as far as thought is, what am I going to lose? What am I going to lose if I do this? What is the, what is the ROI, return on the investment?
That's not what you said, though. What you said
Yeah.
is what you're going to lose.
Yeah.
The return on investment is what you're going to get.
Right. But I think that's, and I'm thinking about that. And if I don't see or feel like there's a good return on the investment, like if I see something like a relationship with a person, when, especially as I start thinking about the potential for marriage, it's like, I think one of the things that kept me, I know what kept me from proposing in my marriage was I didn't want to get divorced. Like, I was, my parents got divorced. My dad was gone out of my life at the age of 2. Eventually came back and we reconnected and all that. But, that was a divorce. Everybody around me got divorced. And I always said to myself, if I get married and have kids, I don't want to get divorced because I don't want anybody to have to go through that. Of course, I got married, and then it did end up in divorce, which I think there's some other dynamics in there, as far as, my ability to commit to one person. Because when the going gets tough in relationships, as I think about relationships, when the going got tough, I would seek validation somewhere else. So I would look for somebody else to convince me that I'm still doing the right thing, that I'm still, a good man, a good father, or whatever. So yeah, I think that's.
I think it's really cool that you have figured that stuff out. I can't really tell whether that's something that just came out of your mouth just now or whether that's something that you've worked up to figuring out.
Yeah. I definitely, after I got divorced, I made it I committed to myself and I said, you know what, I got to figure out why I do the things I do. And I want to stop because there was things, I was not faithful in my marriage. And so when I got divorced, I said, if this is ever going to happen again, I don't want to be that same guy. Like, I want to change. I want to know why what was the attraction of being unfaithful. It was never about sex or anything like that. I think for me, it was more about validation because I had so many insecurities about myself that I just didn't love myself. Now I've come a long way since then, not to say that, everything's perfect in the mind, but,
Never.
yeah,
Never,
you're always working on it. But, and I mean, I've been in, a relationship now for, a few years, since my divorce. I did get into another relationship eventually, and I've been able to stay the course, but I'm not thinking about marriage or anything like that. So yeah, and it's not. I don't know if it's because I've never had a relationship where I didn't have a reason to trust the person. So where I think it's more of a trust in myself. How
does that feel as you say that right there?
I mean, there's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde mentality in my mind because as I say that, there's a part of my brain that says, shut up. You're talking nonsense. You know what you're capable of. You know what you bring to the table. You know that you can succeed. And then there's that Hyde side of it that says, or yeah, I guess it was Hyde was the bad one. I don't know. It's like, you're don't do this. This is too much of a risk. What if you fail? Things like that. The fear of failure doesn't haunt me as much as it used to, but I think there's still some residual feelings that, I sometimes in some situations I don't know if I can trust myself. Yeah.
Like when?
Major purchases, major life shifting events, whether it's a marriage or financial, investing in myself, to build up my skill sets or my knowledge. If it's a big investment, especially financially, I get cold feet until I can convince myself that this is going to be a good investment for me.
How often does that work out?
For big purchases or big investments
that you talk yourself into,
I would say I talk myself out of it more than I talk myself into it.
Okay, how about the ones that you talk yourself into? How often does it actually work out?
I'm going to say it's 50-50. 50-50. And I guess a lot of it depends on my where I'm at current day or current state. If I have a surplus of funds available to me, I don't worry as much as if things get tight. But what's frustrating is I'm the type of guy that believes that it's only money. You can always go make more.
Why is that a problem?
Making more money? Or
no, why you said the problem is I'm the kind of guy that thinks that you can always go out. Why is that a problem?
Well, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's kind of a good trait to have is to not have this dependency on money to define who you are or what you're able to do. I like the fact that I can have that approach. I just wish I could have that approach more often. Kind of an example, even just a current example is I have an opportunity right now that's sitting before me that I can learn from some of the best and further develop my skill set as a coach, and as a coach for others. But it's a fairly decent investment. I don't have it straight out the pocket. But I know I could go out and I could earn it. But I'm not convinced that I want. It's like there's still that. I don't know. Is this the right time? Is this the right time? And I know the time there's never a perfect time, but it's strange. It's kind of like this tug of war in my mind, between do and don't. I really have to wrestle with some of those decisions. Yeah.
Can we use that example?
Sure.
Okay. This opportunity, let's see, I go at that kind of thing several different ways. And it all is the same thing, but there's a couple different techniques. Let's see. I don't have a coin on me right now. Do you have a coin on you?
Yes, I do. I have a whole bunch of coins.
All right. Let's just say for the point, for this, heads you do this opportunity, tails you don't.
Okay.
And let's call it in the air. You can call it in the air.
All right. Sorry, you're going to hear dogs. Maybe you hear dogs. All right, here we go. So heads, yes, tails, no. And I pick heads. Or I guess I'm not supposed to pick, right? I just whatever it falls on. It's heads.
Dude, you picked heads in the air.
Yeah. Well, I said heads. It's something I need to do. Tails.
Right.
Give it more thought.
All right. Dude, you picked heads.
Yeah.
In the air.
Right.
What I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
Right? This is exactly the kind of thing that I have worked to figure out over the last
Mm-hmm.
couple years is when I see an opportunity, it always means money for me. It always means money for me, for a course or a workshop or, some sort of investment in myself. When I see it and I go, oh my God, I want that. I know, like, there's a difference between a, oh my God, I want that, and a, that seems really cool. I should do that.
Yeah.
If I have to talk myself into doing something, it doesn't work out right for me. It just, it doesn't, or it doesn't
Yeah.
work out as well as I'd like it to. Oh my God, I want that. The first time I see it, even if I vacillate after that, like, how am I going to pay for this? I don't even know. Is this the right thing to do? It's that heads in the air. Like, I know. Now, what I'm working on is understanding where in my body I'm feeling that.
Right.
So there's other practices you might even like know some of these. If you sit quietly, um, just find a comfortable position right now and think about, let's see. Think about something, let's see. What do you love to do? Like, what do you just like unquestionably love to do?
I love to speak, share my story.
How
Yeah,
do
I
you
mean,
feel? Where do you feel that when you like right now when I heard you say that, my thing is I kind of zing in my chest. Like
mhm,
I heard that as truth.
yeah,
That's something that you love. Where in your body do you feel that?
I think I mean, I feel it in the chest, like, it's kind of like a, kind of like a stirring, something when I think about having the opportunity to get up in front of people and speak and share my story or a story, it, 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 it's exciting. It's exciting to me. Like, I can't wait to do it. Um, yeah. And I feel that more torso, heart. Um, yeah, but it's not a tensing. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's just that excitement. Like, a kid on Christmas Day, you go down, you see all the toys, and you're like, yes, you start ripping into it. I mean, that's the excitement I feel when I think about that.
Does it feel like expansive or like what can you like think sometimes I feel like my shoulders get wider like I'm
Yeah, it's
like
kind of a, like a, yeah, Superman, let's tear away the jet, the overcoat and go save the world. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, that's how I feel. Like, I get, my body tightens up, but it's out of excitement rather than anxiety or anything like that.
that's cool. That's cool. All right. Um think about uh when you were trying to figure out how to tell your kids that you were getting a divorce.
Mm.
What are you feeling in your body?
That was scary. That was scary.
Mm,
Um, I remember that day. Yeah, and it was just like, I don't know. It's just a heaviness. Like, oh my God, I really got to tell them this. And like, I remember I couldn't hardly get the words out before I broke down and got emotional. Um, yeah, you're gonna get me now with it too.
We can pick something else. It's okay.
No, I mean,
I'm not here
okay.
to. I'm not here to make you emotional by any
No,
means. Now that was also something that you had to do, right? You
yeah.
had to do that. What's a household chore that you hate doing?
Cleaning the bathrooms. I hate that.
Okay. When you contemplate having to clean the bathroom,
Mhm.
where do you feel it? Like, what happens in your body?
Mm,
You have to clean the toilet,
yeah.
and it's been like months.
I don't feel I feel like I want to distract myself. I'd rather go mow the lawn. Like,
Okay.
so it's more of a mind. I feel it more in my head as far as the emotion attached to it. Because it's like, oh gosh, I gotta clean the bathroom. But then that procrastination side of me comes in and says, well, what can we do instead of clean the bathroom? Because it'll still be there tomorrow, it'll still be messy. And of course, then the next day comes and it's like, well, what can I do?
So that's actually super interesting. When I asked you about speaking, right?
Mm.
How it feels when you're speaking, you're talking from your chest.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about cleaning the bathroom, okay, you're not talking about cleaning the bathroom. You're talking about mowing the lawn instead, but you're talking from your head.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you're doing something that feels right to you, maybe it'll feel like it's from your chest, even if it's the tiniest amount. Like we're not
Mm.
talking hey, it feels right to go to the bank today because I need to cash a check and it's going to feel like Superman.
Right.
Like we're not talking that. We're talking like, yeah, I got money. I got to go to the
Mhm.
bank to cash a check. And, like I'm feeling it a little bit here. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry. Here. um, um, but you get all kinds of in your head about something that you have to talk yourself into or have to talk yourself out of, right? You
Right.
literally get up in your head and you start to do this.
Hmm.
And I want to go back for a second. I have absolutely no problem with you getting emotional.
Hmm.
None. Okay.
Yeah.
It was that particular thing wasn't important enough to get that going.
Right.
I would personally like off camera, off recording, I would be perfectly happy to go through that particular thing with you. We could go another half hour and then we could stop and I could talk to you about that. But for this particular purpose, that wasn't working. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. This class, or
Mm.
I'm sorry, you did not say class. You said investment that
Yeah.
would be
Kind of.
hard for you to do. You're not really sure how you could do it, but it could make you a better coach.
Yeah.
Think about it and think about where you're feeling it.
I mean,
Think about where you're feeling now.
yeah. I mean, I feel when I think of the opportunity, the window of opportunity that it's going to open up for me. That feels exciting to me. Like I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Then the mind kicks in and it says, yeah, but they want X amount of dollars up front and you don't have that today. So, it's still there. The excitement of it, the thought of it, and the opportunity that could come from it is there. I feel excited when I think about it, but then that excitement gets deflated a little bit when my mind starts focusing on, well, you've only got X amount of dollars in your checkbook, so what are you going to do?
You are obviously excited about the possibility of coaching and coaching better.
Mm-hmm.
Can you decipher whether it's about this particular opportunity that's exciting or what might come out of this particular opportunity?
I think it's what will come out of the opportunity.
Okay.
What the deliverable on it is.
Do you see that you have to get through this in order to get to that?
Yes and no. Yes, because this would expedite how, I mean, I would get to where I want to be a lot quicker. And no, from the standpoint that I could get there on my own, but it's going to take time, more time than I may have to do it to figure it all out on my own. Because there'd
Do you
be a
mean
big,
physically, lifetime?
uh, yeah, I think, like time as in the day, because there would be a lot more. If I was to do this on my own and get to where I want to be on my own, there's a lot that I gotta lay, a lot of groundwork that I gotta lay to figure out how, the steps to get there, as opposed to this opportunity, which basically I'm learning from somebody that's already, they've accomplished, they've done it. They know, they've got the roadmap. The GPS is programmed. All I got to do is pay for the GPS and boom, I'm going to get where I want to go. As opposed to on my own, where I kind of got to figure out the destinations and plug them in on my own and hope it gets me to the same place.
Can you talk more about plugging in the destination?
Yeah, so it would be it would come down to, like, there's topics that I'm going to have to research on my own. And I'm going to have to go wade through, the millions and millions of pieces of content that are available on the internet to figure out, is this a person that I could trust, that they're not just trying to make a quick buck. They actually are putting out content that I can absorb, and it's going to make me a better coach. And then, figuring that out, as opposed to this person, or the individuals that I'd be working with this opportunity. I've already, like, I trust, like, if I fork over the money to do this, I trust that they're going to provide. It's not just a cash grab for them, as opposed to going out and searching YouTube or reading books, or, and you gotta, invest all that time into consuming that, and then pulling out the right bits of information that I need, as opposed to already having it for me ready to go. So there's, like, a lot of little stops on the way, that I have to kind of figure out and program in. You know what? Here's a good I think this would be a good analogy. The opportunity is going to give me a GPS, which is going to tell me where to go. If I do it on my own, it's like the olden days when there was no smartphones or GPSs. You had to unfold that big old giant map, and then you had to, like, get really close in and say, well, okay, I'm going to take, Route 41 till I get to this town, and then I got to hop off on, 23, and you got to do all that footwork on your own, in instead of somebody just saying, hey, turn left in 1 mile.
Is there a way to ask for directions instead of, like, is there a halfway? You seem to be making it black and white. Either
Yeah.
I come up with all this money and trust this person to not screw me over.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically what I'm hearing. Or it's too much work for me and I don't know how to do it. Or That's totally not what you've said. Okay. You've not said you don't know how to do it. You've said that it's going to be really hard for you to figure out how to do it. You'll be able to do it. It's just going to be really hard, and it would be so much easier.
Right.
Is there a middle road? Like instead of figuring out Route 22 to 14 to 393 on the map, is there a way to ask MapQuest instead of, I don't know, getting on the airplane?
Yeah. I imagine there is a middle road. I have a hard time visualizing what that middle road would look like. Because when I think about doing this on my own, I feel like I'm staring down a long, dark tunnel. Like it's like, I don't know when this thing ends. I just got to walk through this until I get there. I mean, that's kind of the when I try to visualize what that middle ground is, that's kind of the image. That's the first image that pops in my head, is like a long, dark tunnel.
Can I stop a second?
Yeah.
And just say, what just popped into my head is something about the quality of your voice when you were saying that, like the fear and dread of that long dark tunnel. There was something about the quality of your voice which was exactly like having to tell your kids about your divorce.
Yeah.
Hard and horrible and had to happen.
Right. Yeah, and I've caught myself before. Sometimes I can feel and hear the inflection in my voice depending on what
That's
I'm talking
awesome.
about.
That's totally awesome.
But yeah, not always, but sometimes I could feel, it's like, I feel myself kind of backing down as opposed to, stepping up. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been able to, I can sense it, but I don't know if I've ever really taken steps to figure out how to prevent that childlike fear, or whatever you want to call it.
Does it need to be prevented? We as a society, and I suspect, like, I am not a man. I am not a man in the society. I suspect you are absolutely not allowed to have fear. You're not allowed to have fear. You're not allowed to show it, accept that you have it and do it anyway. I have fear and I run the other direction. Like, I do not go towards the fear, even if I know it's the good thing for me. So is that something that you have to combat? Is that something that you can actually look at and go, hey, it's telling me good information, but that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to have it?
Yeah, because one of the things that I changed, that I really worked hard to change about myself, about 6 years ago, is facing fears. Because I grew up with a lot of insecurities and fears, which cost me a lot of opportunities, and even caused me to make some bad decisions. There's not too much that, I mean, there's things that cause fear to bubble up inside, but I'm of the mindset, I guess, with most things, that if it scares me, I'm going to do it. And I may still be scared while I'm doing it, but I'm going to do it. Like, I'm not going to let, 6 years ago, I said, I'm done with fear. Like, I'm not going to let it control my life, but it's still, I can see where it's still there. And I guess when it's there on smaller things, or things that I feel are less significant, I just let it do its thing. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. But if it's
What
something,
does that mean? You let it, what
I
does that
just
mean?
I acknowledge that it's, hey, this is scary, but at this point in time, I don't really feel like challenging it. One of the big fears that I overcame, the first fear I overcame, was my fear of public speaking. And although when you get up on a stage in front of 100+ people, there's still this nervous energy, but it's not fear. I'm not afraid to get on a stage. I'm not afraid to fail on a stage. Roller coasters. My oldest son, he loves roller coasters, and he always wants to go to the biggest, scariest ones. And I'll go and I'll take them and I'll ride them. I don't like it, but I'm gonna ride it. And I do have fun on them. But I mean, the fear is still there. But I'm like, screw you, fear. I'm gonna laugh in your face. So things like that. Now I'm starting to sense where the fear, when other people are involved, I face the fear and I deal with it. If it's myself, I just let the fear be. Like, I don't feel like I need to show up for myself as much as I need to show up for others.
Do you happen to remember in our last conversation my metaphor on how to bushwhack? And
I
that
remember
you need
talking about it. Yeah.
You need boundaries. You need to know where the edges are. You need to know like the main, like the stone walls and the biggest trees and where the streams are and the lay of the land a little bit. For me, it helps a lot to have my dogs with me that I have to watch and make sure they're doing okay. And or a client and helping them figure out their stuff, or like going back to the woods. Like if I take a friend out into that particular bit of woods that I know, I'll go anywhere on it. I'm more likely to go out of my comfort zone if I'm shepherding somebody. And that's something I just know about me. I didn't say that in our last conversation because that's about me.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm hearing a similarity between the two of us on that could mean we're both coach types. Like we both want to help people get through their own stuff.
Right.
Or it could mean that we all, or a much larger percentage, do the scary thing more easily if we're doing it with somebody else.
Yeah.
We're so far off topic here.
It's okay.
but it, I mean, if you'll allow me this, maybe you have an easier time trusting yourself if there's somebody else involved.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you hit on something there when you were talking about your commitment stuff and your ideas towards going for the big thing, making the investment in yourself, is you don't trust yourself enough either to make the right decision or to follow through.
Yeah.
Tell me how that settles with you. I could be completely wrong. I'm often completely wrong.
No, I mean, it does resonate, the lack of trust in myself. Yeah, man, how to explain that? It may be not trusting my ability to commit to finish something, to see it through, that doesn't feel as heavy on me as just trusting myself. Man, I don't know. This is a tough one. That's a good question here, because every answer it comes back, it just pulls it back together as far as, well, is it a fear of, I don't think it's a fear of failure. It doesn't come from a place of failure, because whatever, if you fail, great. That's, to me, that's a good thing. You fail, you learn. I think I look at it as, it may be more of, am I making the right decision? Am I, it feels right. I'm confident that it will produce the results I want. But, and I hate to say this, because I tell people, this is one of the things when I coach or mentor somebody, I always tell them, you can't have this way of thinking, but it's the what if. What if I invested all this money and it doesn't pan out? Now, if it was you asking me, if the roles were reversed and I was a coach, I'd be like, but what if it succeeds? Like, I would be encouraging you to reframe your thought to say, don't think about the negative, think about the positive. So that's, it feels icky to say that, but I that's what I feel. I feel like, I'm not listening to my own advice and just saying, don't what if yourself to death. Just jump in and go with it. And there's this piece of me that says, who cares? I mean, if you lose the money, who cares? Go make more. You just, there's a ton, everybody's hiring nowadays. So I mean, I could go get as many jobs as I want. But for this in particular, it's just like, do I take, I'm hesitant to take that plunge, just because, yeah, it's unknown. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen if I take the plunge. And that's, like I said, that's icky to think, because I would tell people to focus, to not focus on that at all. But here I am focusing on it. So
is it possible? Is it possible that you're trying to talk yourself into something by telling yourself the what if shouldn't be a thing? Oh, I can make more money if it doesn't work out. Like, I'm just at, this is a coin flip, right?
Yeah.
And you, somewhere in your body, the answer. Is it possible that you're trying to talk yourself into something that is too good to be true?
I feel like I'm more so trying to talk myself out of it, out of taking the risk, more so than I'm trying to talk myself into it. When I think about the opportunity as just, and I don't put any other thought as far as what could happen, what may not happen. When I just think about, I can go do this, like, this is something I can do, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to take something from it. That to me is exciting. That gets me jazzed up, and I'm ready to go conquer. But then I think, man, it's a commitment. Like, oh man, it's going to be, it's a financial commitment that, that, and then it's like, I'm almost trying to talk myself into not doing it, because the thoughts will then, and I know this from past experience in my own head, it eventually the thoughts will kick in that says, you don't need this, you could do it on your own. You don't need somebody else's help. Go do it on your own. And then that's when I'll talk myself out of it, because it's like, I could just go do the footwork on my own and read books and watch videos and get coaches. And it's almost as if I gotta rely. I want to rely on others to. It's that validation thing again. I just feel like it's that I need somebody else to tell me it's the right it's the right thing, so that I can trust myself to do it, to take the plunge and just go after it, and not worry about what tomorrow brings. Let's just let's worry about today. Let's get let's do what feels good today.
That's so interesting that you brought that same thing back.
Yeah.
That you're looking for the validation.
Yeah.
That you like, it's just the through line there. Like you need validation. You need somebody else to tell you that you're good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, as much as, that's obviously that's something that I think everybody works on throughout their life.
Oh yes. I'm not saying this is just you.
Yeah, no.
Holy moly, not saying it's just you.
No, and I didn't take it as that.
Interesting to find out where our brains go. I think our minds are so fascinating, and it's parsing out, like, you've been going up, like what I call it is I start to do hamster wheels.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this indicates something else, but I start to do hamster wheels and stop feeling, and yes, I've said that several times, but as soon as I get into my head, I lose all concept of what's right or wrong, and for me, I don't mean like what's morally correct, right? What's right for me.
Right.
As soon as I get into my head, I'm brilliant. Like, I'm a really bright person and I can make anything true.
Yeah.
Like I can give you all of the reasons why something is true or not. We're going into debate club here. Like, just give me a side, I'll prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what's right for me or what's wrong for me. And so, when I'm trying to get you to feel that Superman feeling,
Mm-hmm.
or the in your head feeling, there's the trying to get out of your head and into what's right for you or wrong for you. I will say that you picked heads.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you think that you're trying to talk yourself out you're trying to talk yourself out of doing this. Like, your words that have come out of you sound like you're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it might work and it might not. Like, it's all a process, and you don't appear to be afraid to fail and lose the money. So I would suggest you get the hell out of your head and do it, because you ostensibly you're not afraid for it not to work. Right. And if you just go ahead and take the chance on yourself, and then if it works, then booyah, you also have proof, right? You've got proof that that you can trust that Superman feeling that you felt at the beginning. Like, at some point, you were talking about, if you feel that afraid feeling, you hear it in your voice, you feel that afraid feeling, and it's a little thing, you don't bother with it. I could say, if you feel that Superman feeling just a tiny bit, go for it and see how it pans out. If you feel that afraid feeling, use the tiny ones, the ones that are inconsequential. maybe try, like, 1 in 5 of them, try to use those as strength building exercises.
Yeah.
So that you begin to trust that you're gonna make it through that particular thing, whatever it is.
Right.
And that the next time this little fear comes along, or that Superman feeling comes along, you know you can trust it more.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it
not
makes
telling you
sense.
should do this course, or I'm sorry, whatever it is, hire this
Coaching,
person,
mentoring, yeah,
do whatever
yeah,
it is. I'm I'm not suggesting that you do that. What I'm suggesting you do is take a chance on believing yourself.
yeah,
Especially because what you keep saying is, "Who cares if it works or not?"
yeah,
And now I know that that's not actually how you feel, and it's possible that it is how you feel,
yeah,
and it's possible that you're lying to yourself the whole time, and
yeah.
that's more than 1 hour can handle here.
Right. Yeah,
There's a reason that we get into coaching for, like, sessions,
yeah,
or years, with the same person because we trust them. Because it's I mean, how many things have we touched on in this one conversation?
and this has been a
It
lot.
started out as trust, and then it became commitment, and then
Mhm.
it became trusting yourself, and then it became, um, about a business, and then it became about all these things in your head with how many money, like money
Yeah,
and follow through and your kids, and it's like,
yeah.
what have you tell me what you got out of this. If you can it's totally possible that you got nothing. It's fine.
No, I think what I've gotten from today is I know, and I had to be, and I think I needed to be reminded. I know if I do this, it's going to work out because I've never had anything in my life that I took a plunge on not work out. It may not work out exactly how I first hoped it would, but it's never not worked out to benefit me or someone else. Like, it's everything has been um there's always an upside to all the decisions I made, the roller coasters with my son, like, oh crap, I'm a big dude. This thing's not going to hold me. I'm going to fly off and land in the pond, but then I do it and I have a lot of fun. It's like, okay, let's do it again. Speaking, terrified, got up there, in front of people, started speaking and got vulnerable, let my story come through a little bit. And it was like, okay, I'm I'm pretty good at this. I didn't know I was good at this, but now I'm pretty good at speaking. I've got people coming up to me afterwards saying, "Hey, that really resonated with me, and I appreciate you sharing it." So I'm getting positive feedback. Am I a world class speaker speaking on stages all across the world? No, I'm not there yet, but taking the step and becoming more comfortable with speaking has opened up other opportunities, and it's built confidence. So I know that anything that I choose to do, I will command the good out of it. I will find the good, and it will happen. I won't, once I'm into something, once I commit to something, the the thought of failure doesn't even cross my mind. I'm doing it. I'm going to make it successful. I don't care what it takes. It's that initial getting inside of my head, and your hamster wheel analogy, that felt right for me too, because it's like you're on this wheel and you're just spinning and spinning and you're not making any progress. You're just
Mhm.
there. And if you're like the hamster I had when I was a kid, you're going to stick your head out the wrong time and you're going to strangle yourself. And
Yeah.
because I did have a hamster who did that. He killed himself. I'm not sure, not by intention, um
I
but
don't know,
that's what it
life in
feels
a
like.
cage is pretty
Yeah, that
rocky.
could be too. He was something else. But Yeah. So I think for me, what I got out of this is I know the answer. I know what I need to do. I need to listen to that voice of strength and positivity more. I need to let that one come through. And then when that little voice that comes in and says, but what if, I just need to say, shut up. Like, I'm not even gonna listen to you. And take my own advice and say, you know, what if it fails? No. What if it succeeds? What's gonna happen if it goes great? I mean, think of the lives you can change, how you can help people, get more, have more experience, more skills, get deeper into, you know, helping others from a coaching standpoint or even a mentoring standpoint. So yeah, it's good to talk it out, because especially with someone else, because at least for my mind, I see I can at least then start identifying the shortcomings, right? Like, oh my God, why am I thinking this way? I shouldn't be thinking this way. I need to think this way. I think we all know, we all have the answers. It's just sometimes you've got to, you might have to say it enough times or say it to the right person to finally connect,
That's exactly, as far as I'm concerned. That's why I only guide people.
Yeah.
You know it. You know it. I just have to remind you, I'm just here to remind you that you know it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do my thing and just let it succeed, because I know it will. And
congratulations in advance.
Yeah, there we go. Major breakthrough. But yeah, I don't know. I may have talked myself out of it had we not talked about it today. I may have talked myself out of it, because there's a very small window that I need to make it happen if I'm going to make it happen. So I'm just going to try to make it happen. Actually, I hate the word try. I'm going to make it happen.
I hate the word try too.
Yeah. Gives us an excuse to back out, right?
You try, you lie.
Yep. Well, very cool. I've taken over an hour of your time here today. I really, when we were hopping onto this call, I said, okay, 30 minutes. We're gonna,
Are you kidding? There's a reason that I set my sessions for 90 minutes, because the point is, I'm not telling anybody anything. They're telling themselves, but they got to get there.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get there.
It does. It does, for sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for this session, and thank you for coming on the show, not once, but twice. And yeah, I think anybody that's watching this or listening to this, I mean, you saw it in action. I mean, even if you think coaches need coaching too. So, even if you think you have the answers, you may surprise yourself, because memories and thoughts came up in my head in this hour that weren't there before we started talking. Like, it was
just, you can't coach yourself.
Yeah, you can't. No. But so yeah. So anybody, if you feel it, you need some guidance, I recommend contacting Betsy for sure. So
this has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been good. So
I've loved listening to your mind and how it works.
I know, right? And it's so crazy, because it's, when I think, and my eyes always drift up, and it's just like this swirl of energy through my brain that it's like, connecting the dots. And and I did. I mean, even in today, I had aha moments that we may have not talked about, but as we were talking and as I was thinking, I was like, aha. Because I'll give you an example, talking about, fear of commitment with when I think about money.
Mm-hmm.
As I was talking to this, I grew up as a kid dirt poor. Like, we were poverty. Like, my mom had $5 to feed 3 of us, and she would make it work. She would figure it out. Like, we might be having spaghetti noodles and refried beans for dinner, but hey, we're going to eat. And so I think a lot of my my inability to commit financially probably stems. I need to go back and do some more. I need to go back in my timeline and look at that and see what kind of beliefs I took on as a kid. And so that's a whole nother session there. But
hey, you let me know.
All right, yeah, I might be signing up. I might be signing up here, because it's good. It's good to get it, to just get in your own head and then get out of your own head, So, all right. Well, thank you again. And we'll get this posted up and share it with the world.
You're very welcome. It's been awesome.
All right. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere.